I'm doing the intros for these players, and someone, I think it was Borsi on Twitter, mentioned that get ready for having to pronounce LG-IM.Seed at some point. But
we'll see.
Down at the bottom left-hand corner of the map, ESV Cloud Kingdom, we have our Red Terran player from MVP. Trying to tie things up for them, it is SC. And his opponent in the upper right-hand corner, winner of game number 1, switching his color to teal, but still our Protoss player. It is LG-IM.Seed.
Man, I still remember the first time that Seed popped up in the GSL. He had these like absolutely crazy one-base builds. I remember it was, I think the first game that we saw him play was actually on the Metalopolis back in the day. It was 12 versus 3. That's what it was. And he was at the 3 o'clock position. He did this absolutely insane, like, Gateway, Immortal, Void Ray, like crazy one-base all-in and won the game, and everyone was just freaking out. It was really cool. So Seed made a splash when he first came on the scene, kind of faded back a little bit, didn't really have the best results in individual leagues, but, you know, was always a force that was something to be feared a little bit in team leagues. And it just seems like he's one of those players that over time just continues to get better, you know? I feel like Seed, again, I've said this about other players in the past, but every time I see Seed play, I feel like he's a little bit better than he was before.
Well, we'll see what he's going to be up to now. Of course, let's see if he decides to get gas on 15. If he's going to bypass for a little while, he's going to check out his opponent's base here in just a bit. And as we can see, SC has not decided to get gas. It looks like he is going to opt for a 1-Rex gasless fast expand.
Yep. Not too surprising there. A lot of people do decide to do that in TVP. It's really nice. I mean, economically, you get, obviously, your command center much sooner, unless they're doing something really crazy aggressive. You don't really need the gas that early on. That's what a lot of people are finding out in StarCraft 2 lately. At the pro level, all 3 races, really, maybe aside from Protoss, just because of Warp Gate research, but it's all races are trying to put a priority on getting as little gas as possible in the early game, just because minerals are so much more valuable in those first 5 minutes.
And Seed did go ahead and checked and saw that there was nothing going on in his opponent's base, no gas. So he actually just left 1 worker on gas for now. So we make sure this will allow him to get his Warp Gate technology as soon as his Cybernetics core finishes, but yet he's able to throw down that Nexus really, really fast.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of just like I said. I mean, the faster you can get that second base down, the better you're going to be set economically, and you always want to be at least keeping up with your opponent. And if we look right now, the Nexus about to go down. There it is, and not very far behind the command center at all. And he still gets Warp Gate research on time. So a nice little tight opening by IM.Seed. Won't get the Stalker quite as quick, but, you know, definitely a worthwhile trade in this case.
That is right. So we'll see if he decides to just go ahead and open up with the Stalker here in a second. He does. And it'll be curious to see where he goes from now, of course. He won't have as much gas banked up through a normal 1-gate FE if he decided to go for a few sentries to add on there. It's going to be a lot harder for him to do that, but he is adding on second gas now, and we'll see what path he goes down in a bit.
Well, here's something that actually kind of scared me a little bit about what Seed was doing, is that he wasn't making a Zealot, and if I was SC and I was like, all right, you only have 1 guy on gas, and you're not making a Zealot, so your Stalker's going to be that much more delayed, I would immediately send my SCV down and put an engineering bay at his expansion, because if you can do that, oh, wow, that's a pretty early Twilight Council. Interesting. So let me finish my thought real quick, and then we'll talk about that, Kevin. But basically, yeah, if you can block with that engineering bay and they don't have a Zealot out and they don't have enough to make a Stalker, it's going to be a long time before they can put that Nexus down. So Seed getting a little bit lucky in that case that SC didn't quite pick up on that. But yeah, this Twilight Council, man, what do you think that means?
Well, Blink Stalkers are so good on this map. They are actually so good. There's a ton of cliff line that's exposed there. You can hide pylons all along this, or even if they're back here, a spot where you're just never going to scout, you can still put things up there. DT expands are cool here, and it's going to be DT because it looks like he's saving the probe. So Dark Shrine, and he just actually traps the probe behind the Dark Shrine, but there we go.
You know, the 4 gas as well in total, the 2 taken at the natural really, really quickly too, did kind of scream Dark Templar, and I wonder if SC is going to be able to get a unit back in and pick up on that, because if I saw 3 and 4 gas that quickly in the natural, any pro is going to be like, wait a second, I'm not just talking about any pro prime, the former, you know, prime Protoss player. I'm talking about any professional player would be a little bit suspicious of seeing something like that.
Well, the Dark Shrine does take 100 seconds to finish up, so it's going to allow him to build up enough gas. I mean, it almost feels to me like when Zerg players go for Aspire, because you kind of just bank gas, you make a bunch of probes and zealots, and then you just wait, you wait, and then you can warp in. Oh, can I actually make 4 DTs? Can I make 3 DTs? So it's kind of funny in that regard, but he is going to have plenty of gas saved up.
Yeah, for sure. Now back on the Terran side of things, SC going for a very normal opening from what we can see on the production queue. I haven't seen his base lately because we've been so interested in all the DT shenanigans. There's, of course, a bunker at the front, but how many barracks does he have at the moment? Just out of curiosity, it looks like 3.
Yeah, he has 3.
Oh, yeah. Most normal thing in the world. Even 2 tech labs getting both upgrades. Very, very safe, old-school Terran versus Protoss.
Now, he may have been just going for the super heavy upgrade route with Engineering Bay, but I want to point out that literally as soon as he saw gas number 3 and 4, he decided to put up his Engineering Bay. He put it up right after that, so we'll see.
Smart.
If he's and look, it was indeed 4 missile turrets, so he kind of knows that this is coming. He scans, he is able to pick off one of the DTs, but another one going to make its way around the outside.
Yeah, and the missile turret's not going to, well, I guess it will reach the entire mineral line, so that'll be fine. And does he have another missile turret going up in the main? He does not, actually. He does have another scan on his main orbital, and he has walled off. Oh, that tech lab was stim, though. Oh, man, he's got a scan right now. Okay, there we go. Oh, that was close, man.
Yep.
So terrifying.
The DTs haven't gotten too much done quite yet. In fact, are there any left on the field? No, not at all. So he's going to have to use those for Archons or something like that in a bit. Otherwise, he's going to be set behind. That was really well defended by SC. He knew it was coming up. Like I said, he saw gas 3 and 4, slapped down the missile turret as soon as possible, and then or slapped down the Engineering Bay and was ready for those missile turrets pretty soon after.
Yep, I mean, if you're an attentive Terran player, it's pretty hard to take a lot of damage from DTs unless the Protoss hides it really, really well, just because a lot of Terran players will be getting Engineering Bays. Anyway, with this sort of thing, missile turrets are cheap, and around this time, a lot of Terrans will, you know, have a scan saved up also just in case, you know.
So let's see now. That's a decent-sized force for SC making his way up around the side. Seed really doesn't have a whole lot, and invested in a Warp Prism as well, so his Marauder is going to be quite far behind. I like the addition of a Photon Cannon up at the front, but this is going to be incredibly difficult to try and hold.
Yep, there's a delay tactic, so one Marine unfortunately gets caught on the wrong side of the force field. Seed, though, just kind of waiting for another warp-in cycle. He needs to have more than just sentries if he wants to be able to efficiently deny this. Yeah, you can see just kind of delaying. Doesn't want to let those units get close. Using up a lot of energy to do this, though.
He is, and he's got no more force field left, but we are going to have a DT drop inside of SC's base, so we'll see if he's able to do some damage in return. Now there's an Immortal up with 2 Photon Cannons as well. We'll see if that alone is going to be enough. A few more Zealots making their way in. This Immortal is taking a couple of kills, but the bio units for SC are continuing to just power through.
Oh, doing a ton of damage, but there are DTs in the main going after the command center. That one Marauder not doing anything, but it doesn't matter. He couldn't kill him anyway.
Oh, he's going to hold back at home, too. He really hasn't, SC hasn't actually done any economic damage yet.
Wow, yeah, I mean, this isn't working out too well for SC. He had to lift that command center. There's still 2 DTs rampaging. He lost nearly all the units at the front here, and yeah, all that Seed really needs to do is just keep warping in like 1 DT at his natural, split up the scans. I don't think SC can really handle this. I'm actually really surprised that he didn't put a missile turret down in his main earlier. I mean, it seems like a fairly simple mistake, but it really did cost SC a lot of mining time at the very least.
And now these DTs are able to stabilize back, although the second one should be involved because it just cost him an Immortal, unfortunately. Yeah. So the 2 DTs should have been attacking there. Now let's take a look at the economy. 36 SEVs to 49 probes. So Seed does have an economic advantage.
Yeah, when it comes down to it, the one kind of saving grace for SC is that he was able to kill, a couple Immortals there, kill off a lot of sentries, so that will set Seed's, big attack timing that he may have had in mind back quite a bit. He's adding on some more gateways now, but we'll have to see if he wants to be aggressive with it or just kind of expand off of that. Losing all those sentries really, really hurts. I mean, that's a lot of gas. That's a lot of pressure that you could put on your opponent otherwise. So I'm curious to see kind of what Seed decides to do with this. He's actually getting charge right now for his Zealots, so we may see a Templar Archive fairly soon and see something like Charge Lot Archon. He can, of course, make Archons out of the DTs, too, so he doesn't even necessarily need to go for Templar.
It depends on if he wants to go 2-base Storm with that as well.
Yeah.
So, but, as we can see, more DTs are warping in, and I have to imagine eventually those are going to be used for Archons here. Indeed, the first one is warping in at the moment. Drop coming in, but it looks like Seed should be able to pick up on this. Oh, his units are way out of position. He didn't think a drop was going to be down here, and this is actually going to do some damage.
Yep, he's going to kill off a pylon. I think he got maybe 1 worker or so, but he's going to have to pick up and get out of there pretty quickly here. SC just kind of trying to do what damage he can right now, keep his opponent at home, keep units warping in away from his base, while he kind of gets his economy back up and running. He does have mules, but the SCV count is a little bit low right now, and he wants to think about taking a third in the near future here, too.
SC being very cute here, though. Kills one more worker by dropping back down again, so he's actually done a pretty good job of this.
Yep.
And looks like he's even thinking of just stimming through the front while some units get pulled out of position.
Yeah, he was kind of expecting there to be a third there, too. I'm actually a little bit surprised myself that SEED hasn't tried to go for something like that, but they stimmed for nothing, but that's okay. At least if they, would have been going in there for the base, they would have been ready. So it's the thought that counts, right?
It is the thought that counts. Well, that being said, this drop, no, okay, both drops actually sitting off to the side. And it looks like SC going to push up with a fairly sizable force there. Was able to pick off the Dark Templar over at the Zelniga Tower. Observer forced to come back at the moment. Robotics Bay is on the way as well.
What are the upgrades
and
right
looks
now?
Like it's just pretty much Charge-Light Archon 2-2 versus 1-1.
All right, so again, that upgrade advantage going for SEED. Not too surprising there, and coming from both sides, but so many charge lots there. Yeah, there's just no way that SC is going to be able to do a ton of damage to this army. Nice force fields, too.
Yeah, very, very well done. SC does have a fair number of forces up to the top, and SEED is going to have to warp in some more here. Does do so. Actually forced to fall back at the moment, and SC doing quite a bit of damage. Now, SEED actually making his way through off to the side, though, and it looks like he will have enough reinforcements to be able to eventually push this off. He hasn't been able to touch some medevacs all that much, but a lot of the bioforces do get killed. SEED, though, at about a 16 supply deficit.
Yeah, he'll be able to hold kind of like what we're seeing now. I mean, I'm surprised, actually. I didn't think that SC had as much damage as he did in that army. It really just shows kind of how deceptive the Terran army can be as far as like damage output goes, because he was actually able to kill a ton of Zealots with that. Another fairly large drop coming in here, 4 medevacs, but yeah, with all the Zealots, sentries, and everything else there, he does need to pick up and run away right now. No third bases for either player yet. Interesting.
Well, Command Center's coming up now for SC, so we will be able to have that soon. And there we go. Looks like a Nexus coming up for SEED. And, of course, with the time it actually takes to lift those units over. Oh, very nice job. Picks up on the Nexus, but, of course, the Nexus doesn't have any vision range itself, so may not have actually seen these drops.
Looks like he's going to go to the main anyway. There is a cannon there. Potentially some other units, and this is what SC is really known for, is doing drops like this on multiple fronts. Here comes a warp in right now. A lot of Zealots coming in, but with some micro, he could handle those if he doesn't just decide to make a run for it. Oh, yeah, they didn't last long.
No, not at all. But, this was actually, I mean, that photon cannon proving to be so useful there, though, because all the units were attacking the photon cannon, allowed the Zealots to warp in, and it only cost a few hundred resources to eventually be able to push off those drops. Now, SEED is up by a considerable amount of upgrades. He's more than halfway done with 3-3, and but he's getting close to the point where it's going to be very difficult for him to expand. He's almost out of resources inside of his main. He needs to take a Nexus very soon. Otherwise, it's going to be, well, all in.
Yep, that's kind of what SC is kind of counting on here, is trying to prevent that third base from going up for as long as possible. Now that there are Colossi out, he's not going to be able to attack it with just what he has right now unless he wants to take some sort of pretty big risk. So yeah, I think we're going to see a little bit of a lull in the game for now. Looks like there might be a little bit of DT harass from SEED if he doesn't turn that into an Archon right away. But I think we're going to see both players take their thirds, and we're going to go to a little bit later game.
Very, very true. So 3-3 upgrades just about to finish up along with Colossus range. That is the third Colossus that's actually going to be on the field. So the force for SEED, albeit small, is pretty mighty. 3-3 upgrades, 3 Colossi. You can get a lot done with those, especially if the Viking count's not there. And as we can see, certainly not.
Well, especially on this map, too. I mean, Terran's attack paths into the third base and the natural are all fairly narrow. So if you have 3 Colossi, you're going to be able to put a lot of damage on that bio in a very small amount of time, too. So SC, like I mentioned earlier, both of these guys are going to have to kind of take a little bit of a breather here, though. SC moving out with a pretty big force right now, but we'll see how aggressive he really wants to be with it. I mean, it's much better to engage in the open areas on this map than try to go, up the ramp at the third or up the ramp at the natural or something like that. You can, but there's definitely a certain element of risk with it.
There are some High Templar in the army finally now as well, and looks like this Dark Templar are actually going to be able to get in there, do a little bit of damage. If it cycles around the side, no units will be able to attack it, actually, so... Oh, it does force a scan out of his opponents. Dark Templar going to try and get out of there. It goes down.
Yep. I kind of thought that bunker was close enough that the turret was going to give it vision. It must have been just barely on the edge here. But here comes the army of IGNProLeague. SC may decide to just fight here. Looks like no, he's going to go ahead and go home. Yeah. Trying to find that perfect location for a concave. He did have that high ground advantage, but he's waiting for 2-2 to finish right now.
Yeah, and unfortunately for him, his opponent has 3-3 done.
Yeah.
So even though, yes, it's going to be very nice to have that 2-2 in a second. Actually, the first part of this attack hitting before 2-2 finishes up. There it finally is. So SC only down by 2 upgrades now. The Colossi had pretty good position. They actually hit a lot of units sitting there, and they're not really exposed at all. These units are all clumped up. The Colossi just dealing out a huge amount of damage. SC actually had about 35 supply larger in army going into that fight, and it looks like that's going to be enough to push his opponent back, but Seed actually traded pretty cost effectively there and didn't lose any of his Colossi.
Yeah, I mean, this is a tough map to handle these types of armies on. I mean, I think Seed was counting on doing a little bit more damage early on, but here we go. Coming in now with Archons as well added to the mix. As SCV's coming off the line, and it looks like the supply is going to drop pretty rapidly for our Terran player here.
Just keeping those Colossi so well protected just did the trick, and Seed on the back of those is just going to punish his opponents. 23 kills, 31, wow, 34 kills, there's the GG, and IM takes game number 2, so very well done by Seed.